and it says I'm live. Don't mind me running into my own table. Hello and welcome to Tip Tuesday. I wanted to come in real quick before I run to my next meeting and talk to you about website accessibility, what it is, why you should care. It really impacts your SEO. It's just good business. Also, it's legally required. So what website accessibility means is basically that everyone can access your website. People with physical disabilities, people with hearing loss, people with blindness or low vision should all be able to access your website. So, like I said, it is legally required by the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, that your website be accessible. It is considered a public place. Just like when you go into a store, that's considered a public place, right? So that has to be wheelchair accessible, all that fun stuff. So same with your website. That is your online real estate. It is a public place. Anyone can walk in and anyone should be able to navigate it. Now, there are obviously technology that some of those people with disabilities have on their end that help them navigate the website, right? So they've got Braille keyboards, they've got screen reading software, but that can only do so much. Your website has to be optimized so that they can use those tools and those tools work effectively in navigating your website. And I should add, apps are not my strong suit, but this includes your apps as well. If you have an app in addition to a website or an app instead of a website. So Google cares, right? Also, it's just good business. I mean, if you're trying to grow your business, you're trying to have more people find you online, right? We talk a lot about making sure that everyone can, making sure your website is easy to navigate, easy to consume the content. We talk about that a lot for people who are not disabled. Why would you not also want to make that just as true for people who do have disabilities, just because they're people too, and they buy stuff and they refer to their friends and family. So they should absolutely be part of your target audience. So with that in mind, let's go over some tips you can use. Also, I do want to say the Department of Justice fines you for not having your website accessible. So, and it's every like 10 days or something. So if they find there's an issue with your website and it takes you more than 10 days to resolve it, which it very well could, they're going to keep fining you until it's resolved. So that is a huge reason to make sure that your content, your website is accessible. But like I said, it's just good business. Just don't be a jerk is a pretty good rule online as well as in the world, and certainly in business. So with that said, let's get into the requirements for website accessibility. You can break it down into three main categories. You've got the structural accessibility, the non-visual accessibility, and the informational accessibility. Actually, I want to back up a minute and talk about the different disabilities, right? So we've got deafness, blindness, hearing loss, low vision, as well as cognitive disabilities, speech disabilities, and physical disabilities. So all of those need to be taken into account when you are making your website accessible. Okay, now we can get into the structure. The structural accessibility is how easy is it for people to navigate your website without a mouse, right? If someone is blind, they cannot use a mouse. Or if maybe they have a physical disability that makes it so that they can't use a mouse, or it's just really difficult for them to use a mouse. They just want to use their keyboard. It makes it easier for them. Make sure you have shortcuts available in your website so that people can navigate it using their keyboard. Non-visual accessibility, to accommodate those with low vision or blindness, you need to make sure that you have information available to them in a non-visual format. Ideally, all that information should be available on a single tab so that users can use that, again, through their keyboard if they need to use it through the keyboard. And informational accessibility is the content on your website accessible to everyone. So again, you got to have a non-visual format. You got to have an audio format if you can. You also want to make sure those with cognitive disabilities can understand your content. And for the most part, this means keeping it short. Short words, short paragraphs, short sentences, right? Short sentences are easy to understand. easy to digest. They go, okay, yeah, I got it. They can move on. Short paragraphs create a lot of white space, make it really easy for people to scan your content. And again, this is also just good tips just in general, just because, no one comes to your website to like sit back and curl up with this content and really enjoy how well written it is. No, they want the information. They want to get in, get their information, get out, get on with their day. Make it easy for them to do that. Short words are also good for those with cognitive disabilities, anyone with a lower education level. We do have, unfortunately, a lot of people here in the US who don't have a very high literacy rate. I think most people only read at like a 5th or 6th grade level, right? So most newspapers write at that level. So your website should be the same way, right? So keep it short, avoid any words, certainly avoid words that are based in Latin, especially for my attorney friends out there. I know you use Latin all the time in your job. That's great. You can talk Latin with other lawyers, not with your audience. All right, next up, how to make sure your website is accessible. Include text alternatives. So videos are great, images are great, audio content is great. Not everyone can hear that. Even for the videos, even for those of us who can hear the content, a lot of videos play automatically and people will read. They'll just keep it muted and they'll just read it. They'll read the, whatchamacallit, the subtitles. There we go. That's the word. If you have a podcast, absolutely share that on your website, but then have the transcript available or any other kind of audio content so that anyone who cannot read it or anyone who cannot listen to it, make sure that they can read it. Again, Google cannot yet read audio or visual content. So by having that text alternative, you also make it more SEO friendly and make it more likely that Google will be able to find that content, index it, figure out what you're all about, help you rank for certain search terms. So that's always a good idea. For images, you've got that alt text box. If you use WordPress, it's super easy. Every time you put in an image off to the side, you're going to have that little alt text image box. Google has said that does not impact SEO at all. So you don't have to worry about stuffing your keywords in there unless you want it to rank for Google image search for some reason. But you do want to include a description, a good description of that image in that box, because that is what the screen reading software will read to those who cannot see the image. Color, use color wisely. Again, even for all of us, this makes sense. Just so you've got some good contrast. You will see I have beige behind me and I'm wearing a black sweater, right? Because I know that those contrast really well. I do have a beige sweater that I love it's been sitting in my closet since COVID began because I have a beige background. I'm not going to wear beige on beige. I'm not just going to blend into my background. So keep things like that in mind. Also keep in mind primary colors. Don't match primary colors together because sometimes people have a hard time seeing those. I don't know if you guys heard, but there was some sporting match a while back where they had a team in red facing off with a team in green, and people with color blindness could not tell the difference because those two colors look exactly the same to them. So be careful with the colors and how you match them up. And whatever you do, don't try to get clever with your print. Don't try to put a purple background and white text. Don't do it. It gives us all a headache. None of us want to try to read that. Black on white is standard for a reason. It's tried and true. Stick with it and make sure your print is large enough. I was just analyzing a website for a new client not too long ago, and his print was like super tiny. And even I was like, huh, what is that? So make sure it's nice and big so that everyone can read it. Don't force your users to listen to you. If you have a video, again, this is true for all of us. None of us like that video that pops up and immediately starts playing when we get to a website and we can't turn it off. Let people turn it off. Let people mute it. Avoid content that blinks or flashes. Again, super annoying. No one likes that. But also, if it blinks more than 3 times, it could cause seizures in those who are susceptible to seizures. You don't want that. They're not going to convert. They're going to be really turned off by your brand. So if you absolutely have to have something that blinks or flashes, make sure it flashes no more than 3 times. Avoid content that moves faster than your user. I love putting testimonials on a website. I hate it when people put up a testimonial or a carousel of testimonials, right? So you're trying and you get like halfway through a testimonial and then flips to the next one. And I never got to read that testimonial and hear about how awesome they are. So if you do have something like that, make sure that people have the ability to pause it and to move back so that they can consume that information at their own pace. Let people know where they are, have clear page titles, headlines, clearly marked links so people know how to get where they want to go, and optimize your error messages. There's nothing more frustrating than getting an error message. So don't just say, hey, this is an error. This page doesn't exist. Have fun finding your way out of here. Give them clear instructions as to how they can get out of there. And then how to tell if your website is ADA compliant. I do know some people who specialize in this, so you can always ask me and I can make you a referral. The ADA has its own tool on its website that you can use. It'll scan your website for you and tell you what the issues are. There's also a color contrast validator that you can use to make sure all your images are clear and easy to see. So that is it. That is everything I have for you today. If you have any other questions, you know where to find me. I'm always at info@avwritingservices.com, and you can find more information like this at my website, avwritingservices.com. That's it. Have a great week and happy blogging, everyone.